I'm Alicia Delashmet. I started a nonprofit called Our Home Inclusive Community Collaborative about 3.5 years ago, I think. And its purpose is to promote, support, and develop inclusive and diverse communities.
Hi, my name is Marie Blanchard.
I am 29 years old.
The nonprofit is their first project. Our first project is Our Home Cathedral Park, which is this co-housing community that we're talking about, and we're building community now. Part of the reason that we're reaching out to you guys to help get out our word and amplify it a little bit. So we're, we've purchased, the community has purchased land over in Cathedral Park, which is a community or a neighborhood of Portland. And I'm a mom of an awesome 19-year-old daughter named Neva, and a mom who's in her late 70s named Jane. And because I was looking at housing options for people that will need assistance as we age, which is all of us, we all need community, and didn't find the kind of sort of reciprocal, diverse community that we were looking for, we found that everything was based on deficits and needs kind of around services versus around natural supports of community. So that's why we thought, why is that happening, and decided to build our own co-housing group. And little did I know how complicated it was, and everyone was super enthusiastic about it, like, yes, we want this, but none of us are doing it. So you go do it so we can go model after you. And so being a wonderfully naive mom, we just jumped in, and 8 years later, we're building. So it's taken time, and we're still gathering community, and we're very, very close. It's a process. We looked at a lot of different models of housing and community, and found that co-housing and people that are drawn to co-housing have a sense of gathering around a set of values, a stated and agreed upon set of values, which was really important to us to have our inclusion and our diversity of people who experience disability, people that are below income, people that are wanting to age in a home of their choice, around with everyone else as well, to be something that is stated and focused around as we move forward. And co-housing and co-housers, I think, tend to have a mindset of wanting to be more than just what one individual is, more of the collective individuals. What that it's like singing, right? Your voice sounds like one voice. When you combine it with other voices, it becomes something completely different and stronger and more moving. And I think that's what I saw with co-housers and co-housing, that it allowed us that opportunity to come together and be something more than just one family or one person.
I want to know who my neighbors are instead of just living with people I don't know. I love to have my community like a big family. I am going to live independently for the first time in my life. Right now, I live with my mom in my childhood home.
We're not a group that's built around services. That's something we really wanted to actively avoid, because services ebb and flow, and don't have the personally driven individual choice of or kind of control is what I'm looking for. So each individual is in charge of organizing their own services, whether they need medication managed, money managed, your toenails clipped, whatever it is that you need, whether you're aging or a person with a disability, or any of the rest of us, honestly. We're in charge of our own, hiring our own supports and controlling our own supports. The community is there to be friendships and community and fun and connection and belonging, just what a neighborhood is. So we're not asking anyone to care for any of our neighbors. We're just asking and giving the opportunity to care about each other.
A community meal room, also for games and dances. A courtyard to be outside together. The community spaces are very important to me. To eat, dance, play, and garden together.
So the difference between our home Cathedral Park and a typical condo development or apartment building or housing is that we started from the very ground up on how do we build the architecture around supporting community and getting to know each other and build relationships. So the layout of our units is so that our kitchens and dining areas are forward facing towards a shared courtyard. And we have a lot of shared open space where people can gather. We have then sort of semi-public spaces in little breakout areas and smaller gathering spaces, the living rooms and the little front porches, so to speak. Our walkways are on the outside versus a double loaded corridor, which you go up an elevator and down the hallway into your doors. We have walkways on the outside that are covered so that we are more in view of each other. So just having that exposure and that connection to each other visually throughout the day starts to build some of those relationships without even having the conversation or sitting, having to sit down or make the effort to sit down and have a conversation to get to know someone. So that's the architectural piece, sort of the public, semi-public, private, or semi-private and private spaces that we're providing. We're also doing overlays of trauma-informed design and neurodiverse design and age in place and universal design, deaf and hard of hearing, visually impaired design, all of these overlays into the architecture so that we have the most welcoming environment possible to the broadest group of people, just again, from the ground up without doing a thing. Then in addition, we've got this beautiful common dining kitchen area where we will be able to eat and entertain and play games and throw pizza disco parties and do workshops on all sorts of different topics. We plan on inviting the greater St. John's and Cathedral Park neighborhood associations in to hold some of their meetings in our space so that we're welcoming the broader community. So that part of that amenity is you're not only just yourselves, your neighbors around you, but you're forming relationships with your community outside. So when you leave your home, you have neighbors and people that know you in the broader space. And then we are going to be kind of mining, we call it mining our community of, what are you interested? What are you an expert in? What do you want to learn about? And that's what we will host in our community space as well, as workshops on those topics, whether it be behavior as communication or conflict resolution or basic communication, how to use I statements versus you statements, sort of the general, how do we all get along in a community together? We're all people, so we're all difficult just by nature of being human. So how do we teach each other and have a shared common language when it comes time to have some of the hard conversations, about death and dying and supports and our environment and global warming and earthquakes and all of those wonderful things that often get kind of pushed off to the side. So there's a lot of opportunity to build community and to build relationships and have that support from each other. And it's not a game room that's down the hall or a workout facility that's down the hall and hidden away. This community room is very upfront and forward. So you see it from your own units when there are people in there and that you can gather with folks. You don't have to peek around a corner to see if anybody's in there. It's really obvious. So bringing that community space forward for all of us to partake in has been really important as well.
Yeah, I think that especially for the population of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, access to social capital is difficult already in comparison to the neurotypical population. And so when we can design places and spaces in a way that really encourages belonging, like I can see in my mind's eye your hallways outside facing the courtyard area and someone on the third floor waving down to someone who's down in the courtyard area, and just having that acknowledgement of, you are in our community, our space, I know your name and care enough about you to want to just say, hey, what's up?
Right.
I think that's beautiful.
I think, when you present differently, it's very often people have been taught from an early age to don't stare, don't look, which turns into don't engage, which turns into ignore, which turns into isolate.
Right.
In our community, because, for example, my daughter is going to be out and about in all of the common spaces, people will see her, get to see how people interact with her, how her care providers, her family, her friends, people that are laughing with her, people that get her communication style. That then takes their fear, which is an honest thing. We are afraid of things that we don't know. There's no judgment in that. We're just, it's a natural human reaction to shy back from things that we're uncertain about. That gives a sense of comfort and familiarity, so that when you do meet in the hallway, you're like, hey, Neva, how's it going? And you know that you pause for a second, because that's what you've seen other people do. You've had a chance to watch other people model how the interactions go. So you've armed yourself with education and knowledge upon that first meeting. And I think that is so important, understanding the care and feeding of each other just through modeling of other people that are already friends with folks. And that's what this community and the sort of intentional, I don't want to call it exposure, but intentional interactions that happen that are sort of secondary throughout the day, that lower that concern and build true connection and friendships. The nonprofit has worked very hard to build relationships and do fundraising and work with foundations and write grants. That funding has come into the nonprofit and is being loaned to the LLC that will be developing the co-housing. They receive a very low interest rate, which is, you need to have a low interest rate to come back, to have it be a viable loan. Once the houses, or once our community all gathers together and we get mortgages for our units, that revenue that's generated pays back the nonprofit, and the nonprofit then can take finances to go forward to do other communities, or to help with the subsidies of the affordable units that we are doing as a choice in our co-housing. Co-housing has struggled with affordability. This allows some flexibility with that process. We have 31 units. We are starting at studios, going up to 3-bedroom units. We have a small core of 4 founding members right now. We want to have 75% of our membership together before we start construction. So that's who we're looking to gather now. Like we said, we've got a very strong foundation of a great developer who has done co-housing in the past, an architect who has designed co-housing in the past. We have all of our legal setup in place. We have our nonprofit mission member as a part of our development community, which moves the mission of inclusion and diversity forward. So we're now looking for all of our families, our teachers, our doctors, our construction folks, anyone that wants to be a part of an inclusive and diverse community, grandparents, aunts and uncles, families, to join us and move this forward. Whether you experience disability or not, whether you're over 55 or not, we're looking for everyone to come together, as long as you have that value of the importance of knowing someone that is not the exact same as you. We're not looking for a cookie cutter community. We're really wanting to bring people in that will share their gifts and strengths in a reciprocal caring community.
Make sure it's inclusive and not just all the same kind of people.
8 years after starting down this road of that exact exploration of realizing that I'm not going to last forever and my daughter deserves to have a strong community around her way before I leave her world. Had I don't know, you know, I'm thinking about what we have done over this last 8 years and the complexity that we've encountered as we've been doing this work. I think if I were to do it again as a single family, I would probably reach out to existing co-housing groups or forming co-housing groups and infuse myself into their culture rather than to start one on my own. This is a long process. I think co-housers and co-housing is a wonderful, warm, welcoming group of folks that would benefit from having the diversity of people who experience intellectual and developmental disabilities. I think you've already got a group that's prime, that, you know, is an understanding, interested group. I was very impressed going to a couple of the co-housing conferences, and there were a handful of people who experienced disability that were in some of the workshops, and the respect and attention that they were given when asked questions or made comments from the larger group was a really heartwarming, wonderful experience for me to see that these are our people. They already get it, you know, a little additional education and, you know, exposure and a chance to be a part of disability world, which which I find myself in. But it's already ripe for us, for our families. Another option is to, you know, partner with a forming co-housing group, you know, either one that already exists or one that is forming. Staying out of pure disability funding and going into the larger group of, you know, what other groups do we want to include, so that it doesn't become just for people with disabilities. You know, I believe really strongly in that diverse community, and everybody brings something to the table. The cost of the units, the studio to 3-bedroom units start at the mid 300,000s and go up to the mid 700,000s. That's a 2023 projected market rate number. So all of the units will be appraised and be able to have mortgages. So that's our basis, our litmus test is, does it appraise in the market as a market rate unit? Right. And that's where we are landing. To be a part of the development LLC, it's a $5,000 first input, and then there'll be cash calls throughout the project to bring you up to around 20% of the cost of the unit. We, at this point, have a very dedicated handful of families and individuals that are going to be a part of our home Cathedral Park. And we are reaching out to both folks that do and do not experience disability, that are over and under age 55, that are families and individuals. So it sounds a little bit like I'm talking about everybody. So we are talking about everyone. We want to bring our broad community together, people that have the values of inclusion and diversity, whether it be disability, age, income, race, religion. You know, we talk about taking the giant carnival claw, that game that you put the quarter in and you reach in and you pull out the toys. We want to just do the big claw into our community and drop it into our home Cathedral Park of, you know, all the folks that make up a strong community. We believe that a diverse community is a strong community, and we are reaching out now to bring our neighbors together. There's the advocate hat that wants to change how people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are a part of our broader communities. You know, there's the advocate hat, and then there's just the simple mom hat of, you know, I want my daughter to have friends and family and community around her. And that's what this co-housing group does. It solves the the simple problem of friends and family and community for my one person, it also then for the larger community gives an example of, oh, they have people with disabilities living there. It's not a disability community. It's not housing. It's not an institution. Neva's just living there with everybody else, and everybody, you know, they're really having a good time. And we're coming in and we're seeing this. We see them up on their deck having parties and having barbecues. And so when Neva moves out into the broader community, she's already a known entity. And so it's sort of this sneaky advocacy where we're not, you know, beating our drums saying, you know, include us. We're just like, we're here, we're out, we're, you know, we're part of your community, and we've got people with and without disabilities, and it's not that big a deal. You know, this is super common sense. You know, I call it cutting edge common sense. You know, you just live the life that you want to, you know, be the example and let people in on the secret that it's not that hard. You know, it's just,
Totally.
it's just friendships. It's not that hard.
Totally. You know, I believe that it's almost as if we who are part of this, you know, neuro-inclusive movement, I mean, I do feel as if we're going to help change the landscape of what housing looks like in the future for everybody,